There is a strange kind of person you meet in hospitals, courtrooms, trading floors, big tech offices. On the surface, they are the experts. They are the ones with the steady hands, the long resumes, the impossible skills. And yet many of them feel harsh, cold, insensitive. You watch how they talk to people. You see the way they cut through feelings. Part of you thinks, how can someone this good be this blunt? Another part of you quietly wonders, is that what it takes to be that good? I once heard a story about an older head of surgery in a big teaching hospital. He trained generations of surgeons. When he was younger, if a trainee made a mistake in the operating room, he would not just correct them, he would snap. He would raise his voice. Sometimes he would kick a stool, slam a tray, lash out with words that cut deep. He chain-smoked, drank heavily, and seemed to move through the world with this tough, unbothered energy. To everyone watching, he looked like the stereotype of the old-school surgeon. Brilliant, rude, terrifying. Later in his career, he stopped operating himself. He would stand behind the glass or at the back of the room with a microphone, watching his residents work. If he saw anything he didn't like, his voice would crackle through the speaker and shred the air. The pressure in the room was so intense you could almost taste it. Nurses moved faster, trainees held their breath. The whole team lived with this constant sense that one misstep could get them humiliated in public. Here is the uncomfortable part. The team under him was famous. His residents became excellent surgeons. Their technical skills were respected across the country. That department had a reputation for being one of the best. He lived his wild, intense life and seemed strangely satisfied. His trainees carried his standards into their own careers. To many people on the outside, this confirmed a belief. See, that's what greatness looks like. That's what it takes to reach the top. You have to be tough. You have to be hard. Then he retired. The hospital brought in a new head of surgery. This new chief never yelled. He never humiliated anyone. He was polite, gentle, always calm. He listened. He tried to create a kinder, more modern environment. And slowly, something odd happened. The atmosphere shifted. Some of the senior people, the stars of the department, started to lose respect for him. A few nurses would talk back in ways they never would have before. The old guard rolled their eyes behind closed doors. Over a few years, many of the core team members left. The department's reputation faded. From the outside, people said, he's too soft, he has no authority, nice guys finish last. Stories like this create a very powerful myth in our heads. If you want to be a true expert, if you want people to listen, you have to be insensitive. You have to be mean. If you're not yelling, no one will take you seriously. That's a seductive story. It is also incomplete, because there is another kind of expert you meet. At first glance, they may not even look like an expert. They are calm. Their voice is soft. They are easy to talk to. They don't brag. They don't fill the room with their ego. They feel normal. You don't see any fireworks, but if you spend time with them, something interesting happens. You realize there is a kind of quiet gravity around them. They do not gossip. They do not overshare. They do not jump into drama. You never see them screaming or losing control. They can sit through someone else's emotional storm without getting pulled into it. But when they do speak up, when they offer an opinion or a decision, their words land hard. They do not have to shout. They do not have to threaten. There is a firmness in their tone, a weight in their sentences that makes everyone in the room stop and listen. You feel that this is not noise. This is a person who knows exactly what they are talking about and who is used to carrying real responsibility. People sometimes confuse stable emotions with no emotions. They look at someone who never explodes and think, oh, they must not have a temper. That is rarely true. The people with the most stable emotions often have very strong tempers. They just don't let the temper drive the car. They choose when and how to express it. They can be very proud in a quiet way. They have sharp boundaries. They're not easy to manipulate, but their pride does not spill over as random cruelty. It sits there as a kind of backbone. When they're angry, they don't start attacking the person, they attack the problem. They talk about the action, the mistake, the process. They say, "This is not acceptable. Here is why. Here is what we will do instead." Their face may harden, their voice may drop, but they don't throw personal insults. They don't humiliate. They don't drag old wounds into the moment. You walk away feeling corrected, but not destroyed. You may be shaken, but you are not shattered. People like this can feel cold from far away. You might think they don't care about anyone, but often that coldness is just clarity. It is a choice not to get trapped in everybody's emotional storm because they know they have a job to do. And the heartless bit, the way they can cut through tears and excuses, is often built on a very deep understanding of how fragile people are. They know if they let themselves drown in every story, they will burn out and then be useless to everyone. There is a famous line from Aristotle: "Anybody can become angry, that is easy, but to be angry with the right person, to the right degree, at the right time, for the right purpose, and in the right way, that is not within everyone's power." That sentence is basically the difference between a loose cannon and a professional. Getting mad is simple. Using emotion in a controlled, focused way is a skill. Experts are not emotionless. They do not float through life untouched. They feel frustration, fear, sadness, annoyance, just like anyone else. The difference is that they have learned how to manage those feelings in the middle of high stakes. They have trained themselves to reduce the noise in their own mind so they can see clearly. One of the first things real professionals understand is that emotions are downstream from thoughts. What you think about a situation shapes how you feel about it. If you tell yourself, "This is a disaster, this always happens to me, I can't handle it," your brain responds with panic, anger, or despair. If you tell yourself, "This is a problem, I've handled problems before, here is the first step," your brain responds very differently. Same situation, different internal script. Because of that, people who are good at managing their emotions are careful about the stories they repeat in their own head. They don't spend hours rerunning old arguments and fantasizing about revenge. They don't drag the past into every new moment. They also don't live 10 years into the future in their imagination, worrying about everything that might go wrong. They try, as much as possible, to come back to what is in front of me right now, what can I control in the next hour. That inner focus doesn't magically erase feelings, it just keeps those feelings from swallowing their judgment.
They also know one counterintuitive thing. The more you fight a feeling, the stronger it gets. Think about telling yourself, "Don't be anxious, don't be anxious, don't be anxious." All you are doing is repeating anxious to your nervous system. You give the emotion free advertising. Experts do not waste energy hating their feelings. When they notice a wave of anger, sadness, or fear rising, they try to let it pass through them instead of wrestling with it in place. A lot of them have simple habits for this. They go for a run, they take a long shower, they clean the kitchen, they lift weights, they read for 20 minutes. They do something with their body or their mind that is familiar and manageable. It is not escapism, it is a pressure valve. While they are moving or reading or cleaning, their brain gets a chance to settle. The emotion that felt huge starts to shrink. When they come back to the problem, they see options that were invisible when they were flooded. Another quiet skill they have is the ability to untangle their own emotions instead of being trapped in a messy ball. Most people, when asked how they feel, say something like, "I don't know, bad, off, upset." It's like trying to see through fog. You just feel heavy. You don't know why. That vagueness makes everything worse. Someone who has practiced emotional awareness does something different. They mentally step back and ask themselves a few basic questions. What just happened? What am I actually feeling about it? Am I embarrassed? Am I scared? Am I disappointed? Am I angry? At whom? About what exactly? They try to put clearer labels on the feeling and link it to a specific event or thought. I'm not just awful. I am ashamed because I made a mistake in front of my boss. Or I am not just mad. I am frustrated because someone broke a promise again. You can feel the difference. The problem has not vanished. The deadline, the mistake, the argument is still there. But by naming the emotion and its cause, the fog clears a little. The feeling has edges. It is not just a huge, nameless monster. That alone makes it easier to carry. The key when you do this is your position. You have to sit in the observer seat, not the victim seat. If you start telling yourself a story like, "This always happens to me, nothing ever works out, why is my life like this?" You're not observing, you're dramatizing. You are feeding the emotion instead of understanding it. The skill is to notice the thought the moment it pops up and say, "Ah, there's that story again," without climbing into it and writing it all day. In practice, this looks small. It looks like pausing before you answer an email that made you angry. It looks like taking 3 breaths when your kid spills something instead of automatically yelling. It looks like saying in your own mind, "I feel disrespected right now," instead of unconsciously going straight to, "You're an idiot." It looks like being the calmest person in the room when everyone else is panicking. That is what separates the quiet expert from the noisy one. The old surgeon who kicked and screamed produced technically strong doctors, but probably also left a trail of anxiety, shame, and burnout behind him. There is no question he set high standards. There is also no question that he crossed lines that did not need to be crossed. Fear can push people to perform, but it also makes them brittle. One day they become leaders themselves and often repeat the same abuse because it's the only model they know. The new chief, the too nice one, tried to avoid that pain by being endlessly gentle, but he swung so far in the other direction that he lost authority. People stopped taking him seriously. Standards slipped. The team came apart. Kindness without backbone turns into chaos. No one feels safe when there are no consequences for bad work. The real masters, in any field, tend to sit somewhere between those two extremes. They are not cruel, they are not doormats. They do not humiliate people, but they do not let serious mistakes slide either. They know how to be angry in a way that is clean, focused on the action, limited in time, followed by a path forward. They do not let their own unresolved issues spill all over everyone else. They are not perfect, but they are accountable. If you want to move in that direction yourself, you don't need a fancy course. You can start with a few simple practices. Notice what you are telling yourself in stressful moments. Catch the always and never phrases and soften them. Give your body something to do when your mind is spinning: a walk, a set of push-ups, cleaning out a drawer. Then come back and untangle what you feel with a few quiet questions. What happened? What do I feel? Why? And what is one next step that is productive? Over time, if you keep doing this, something changes. You become less reactive. People start to feel a different energy around you. They begin to trust that you won't either explode or collapse when things get hard. That trust is what gives your words weight, even when you say them softly. That is the quiet psychology behind the experts who seem insensitive but are often just steady. And that steadiness is not coldness. It is care, disciplined. You will still get angry. You will still feel hurt. You will still have days when you fail at all of this. That is okay. Remember, becoming angry is natural. Letting anger steer your life is optional. The real skill is to feel everything, to lose control as rarely as you can, and to keep choosing, again and again, to respond like the person you are trying to become, not the person your emotions are trying to drag you back into. That is not glamorous. It will not get you a dramatic movie scene, but it will quietly change how you show up for other people. And over time, as you keep holding that line, you may find that you have become one of those steady, serious voices in the room that people listen to without quite knowing why.